Hey guys, thank you for joining us today on Instinctive Addiction. I've got a really good educational video here for you today. We hope and pray that this one will be a big help to you. Okay, and it's also by request. We had a couple that have asked us this week, messaged us and said, the guys, we want you to do a video on aero tuning and initial bow setup. I understand there's a lot of people buying trad bows that really don't have a clue where to even start with getting their arrows right, especially for broadheads, okay? So what I've done today is I've laid everything out to give you guys the simple process that I do, the quick, easy way, okay? There's lots of things you can do, but the quick, simple, easy way to get your setup right is gonna be just what I'm gonna do today. All right. So what I've done is I've opened up a brand new pack of arrows, okay? Brand new, unopened bare shafts here. These are Victory Carbon Trad 550s, okay? Fresh out of the box, Gamer 550s, all right? So, the reason that I picked 550s for today's demonstration is because I'm going to be doing this and setting up another bow, okay? So this is actually gonna be a job for me here today, that something I needed to do anyway. So I'm going to be setting up a short longbow. This one right here. I'm going to be setting up a 47 pound longbow with a Victory Carbon Trad 550. I know that 47 pound longbows at my draw length generally, or recurves, love these 550 arrows, which are the same as a 500, okay? So whether you're shooting Easton's, gold tips, Victories, it makes no difference. Anything in that range is going to be fine for this poundage of a bow, provided you don't exceed 280 to 300 on your total weight, okay? But what I want to do today is I want to get optimum flight and great FOC. I want at least 15% FOC. Okay, so how am I gonna do that? How am I gonna get enough front of center weight on this shaft that it will do the job with no problem, okay? But yet not tank at 20, 25 yards, have great trajectory. All right, so what I got in mind for this setup today is taking the 550, setting it up with the factory stainless 80 grain half outsert. It's 80 grain stainless, okay? So that gives me 80 grains before I do anything else. I got 80 grains to start with. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna cut a shaft, we're gonna glue it in, we're gonna screw a 150 grain field tip on it, and then we're gonna start bare shaft tuning this deer target in the hardest part of the medium that I can find right here. We're just gonna do a quick bare shaft tune, and we're gonna determine what we need to do with this arrow. Now, the initial thing you want to do, so that you don't ruin a batch of arrows, is don't cut them too short to start with, okay? First thing you want to do is you want to draw this bow. You want to draw it and come to full anchor. And I've already marked this one, so I'm going to show you guys what I did. I drew it to full anchor, okay? Which means I'm right there. There it is. I put a mark. I put a little mark right there. That's what I did. I marked this arrow so that I knew where to cut it. Now, I'm not worried about this arrow being too stiff at all. You know why? Because I can add more front weight. I can weaken it all I want. But you can't stiffen an arrow, but so much. So, if this arrow comes in too weak, and I am trying to shoot 150 grain field tip, broadhead, whatever, with an 80 grain outsert, that's 220, okay? Or 230, I'm sorry. 220, yeah, 220, trying to do the math. 80 grains and 150, okay. So 230 up front is usually plenty for these arrows, okay? So I may or may not go heavier. It's all gonna be determined on what this thing does when we bare shaft tune it. So here's what we do, guys. We take the bare shaft, we cut it, okay? So to save time in this video, voila, I got one cut. Check it out. Walked over there and I cut me one to my mark. See? Cut it. Cut it to the mark. So that gives me my starting point. I'm gonna take this thing and I'm gonna glue this 80 grain stainless outsert in it and put a 150 grain head on it. And we're gonna bare shaft tune this thing and we're gonna see just how it does. See what we need to do to make this thing shoot right. So here we go. Check this out. All right, guys. Grab this thing here with the pliers so you don't burn your hand. There again, I'm gonna use hot melt for today's purposes, because I can take it in and out if I need to without any problem. I like hot melt. And it actually works well. It does. I use hot melt a lot. Alright. Spin it. Push her down good. Let her cool off for just a minute. And then peel the little excess. You don't really have to for bare shafting because it doesn't really matter, but you don't want any extra weight on there at all, even glue. You want to be super accurate with it. Okay? Hot melt works great, and if you have long posts like ethics systems, a really long insert post and an outsert that's going to be glued, hot melt is fine. You don't have to epoxy them. A lot of people do, and I do some of mine, but I occasionally have a tendency that sometimes I might want to turn my broadhead a certain way just because I want it oriented a certain way for no particular reason, but that may be what I want to do. So that's why I use hot melt. And if you just ever happen to Robin Hood an arrow, you can get it out and save that system, whereas if you epoxy it, you're not getting it back. It's there forever. You've lost it. So if you damage a shaft in any kind of way, at least you can get it back. Okay, so we got our bare shaft with the 80 grain stainless half outsert and 150 grain tip in it. I'm gonna weigh this shaft right now and just see what it is bare right now without any fletchings or luminox or anything right now. I'm gonna weigh this thing. Put her on the scales and see what this thing comes in at. Let her zero out. 528 grains. 528.6 grains. Very, very good start. So already I'm on a 47-pound bow, and before I even do anything else, I'm at 528. So that's plenty. That's good. So that means my finished arrow is probably, with luminox and all that, it's going to be somewhere around the 550 mark. Be about a 550 grain shaft, which is plenty heavy, guys, for a 47-pound longbow with my draw length, because it's going to be fast. It's going to hit hard. Okay, so let's do some bare shaft tuning now. Let's just initially try this thing and see what it's doing with this 150 and 80. It's 230 grains, 230 up front. So we can add, or we can take off, or we can cut off the back if we need to. Because remember, guys, when it hits the target, if this thing hits and it is knock left, if it's going in your target knock left, it's too weak. That means that you're going to have to continue to cut the shaft 1/4 of an inch at a time. And I like to cut them from the back once I glue these in most of the time, because it saves the gluing time, because it really doesn't make any difference. But you start cutting and cutting and cutting until it gets there, if it starts out weak. Now if it starts out stiff, all you got to do is add point weight. It's simple, super easy. So we're going to do that right quick. Let me grab my glove. And we're going to bare shaft tune this little longbow here. Show you guys the quick way to do this. Fun, isn't it? I love it. Because I wanted to get this bow set up for these hunting arrows anyway. So here we go. All right, you guys see I've got the little deer target right there, and I always try to shoot vertical. I shoot vertical, and I like to shoot at least 8 to 10 yards. Because it gives that arrow time to leave the bow and come out of paradox and see how it's flying through the air. If you get too close, the paradox itself, the paradox is going to lie to you, because this shaft has to bend. It has to bend and flex around this riser. These shallow cut risers on these longbows, it has to do that. So you got to give that arrow time to come out of paradox out of the bow, and then decide what it's going to do, how it's leaving. If it's leaving weak, flying sideways toward the target, or if it's stiff. That's what you have to determine. Okay, so that's what we're going to do right now. All right, let me pick the hardest part that I can in this thing. I like to get down and just get straight over these things. Believe it or not, it's absolutely perfect. It is as straight as it can be, but I'm going to shoot it again because sometimes they'll lie to you. Guys, this was easy for me because I've done so many of them. But if and I will demonstrate this, if I screw a 200 grain field tip on that arrow, it's probably going to become weak, which would mean I would need to cut just a little bit off of it to do that. So if you say, well, I'm going to shoot 200 grain broadheads, I'm not shooting any less than that with this 80 grain outsert, well, you're going to have to cut your arrow a little bit shorter, okay? And that's what I would have to do. Well, I know I'm going to shoot 150 grain heads with these. That I've already determined that. With this bow, this setup, I'm going to shoot 150 grain Magnus buzz cuts. So I'm perfect. I'm instantly perfect. I could start just building these arrows right now. But I'm going to show you guys, when you put more weight on it, yes, it's going to weaken it. And if I go less weight, which I don't ever shoot less than 150 grain broadhead of any kind, you could get by with a 125 probably. It's not going to make that much difference. But with a 150, this thing's perfect already. So let me grab it right quick. Straight as it can be. It cannot be any straighter. None. Not any. Absolutely straight. And if you shoot it into something too soft, don't do this with bag targets. If you're not going to use 3D foam material, at least shoot it in a block. Because if you shoot this thing in any kind of a bag type, it's going to lie to you, because it's just, when it goes in, the arrow's going to move side to side and you're going to get a false reading. Just drive you crazy. Just doesn't work. Okay, I'll shoot this thing into the dead end of the hardest part of the shoulder right here. Straight as it can possibly be, guys. Let me show you. Okay. Follow me over here, guys. I'm going to show you. Here we go. This is where I was. Okay. If you guys can see that, this arrow, from exactly where I shot, this arrow is as straight as it can be. I know it's a little hard to see right there. This arrow is as straight as it can be for where I was shooting from, okay? All right, so that's what you want. Initially, that's what you want. And it actually went through there and hit the fence. So I know that this one's good to go, 1000%. I can now fletch this arrow, put 150 grain broadhead on it, and this thing is gonna fly like a bullet. That simple, that easy, okay? Now, I'm gonna put a 200 on here real quick, just to see if it does weaken it. Okay, what can I get by with? I'm gonna say, okay, what is the maximum limit I can push this shaft to, that it's not gonna flex on me too much? What can I possibly shoot on this? And it may shoot a 200 very well. It may. Scoot this thing back and I'll get this where hopefully you guys will be able to see it. All right, let's do this. Let's put a 200 on. Here we go, 200 grain. Fireworks. There we go. We got 280 on the front of this thing. 280. Let me back her up just a little bit. Tell you what, I'm gonna put it right back where it was, where you guys get this exact same reading, exact same thing we did. I'm not gonna change anything. Nothing at all. Give me some room to shoot here. And I told you I like to be back at least 10 yards. That's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna give this arrow time to fly. Now our hopes and prayers are that this arrow will still fly straight, that it will bare shaft tune with 280 up front in case I want to shoot a 200 grain broadhead on this thing. Be nice if we could. Here we go. It's better to be a little bit weak than too stiff, that's for sure. Okay. All right. Weak. Now, you guys see. You guys see. Happy 4th of July. See that? See that? Weak. Weak. I put a 200 grains on it. Now what have I got? Instead of being right here straight, like the other one was, it's weak. So it means if I want to shoot a 200 grain head on this shaft at the length that I have cut it, which is really where I want it. And now how do I determine where I want it? Because I like to draw it and look at it and see how it goes. Let's just see here, right here. Guys, it's already riding on my finger. Outsert on my finger, right where I like it, where I can feel it. It's more or less my mental trigger. That's my aero clicker, if you will. So I can't cut this thing any shorter. I can't. I'm done. If I want to shoot a 200, I'm going to have to go in there and cut up some 450s. I've got to go up a spine range to shoot above 230 grains. Okay? So that tells me that I'm maxed out when I've got these fletched up, that I don't want to shoot over 150 grain head on this batch of arrows out of this bow. A weaker bow, it would be okay, which I don't really have any weaker bows. 47-pound longbow is about bottom for me. So I know that I have the perfect match, but I cannot exceed that or I'll have to go up in a spine. I could put a 400 or a 450 and put as much as I want on it, but it's perfect right here where I'm at. That's my draw. I'm there. I'm done. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Building arrows is so fun. Setting up bows is fun. Barrel shaft tuning is fun. And it's very simple. Don't overcomplicate it. It's a very simple process. And all you do, just to give you the quick recap, draw your bow, come to full anchor. If somebody's around that can mark it for you, it's a whole lot easier. Draw it and get somebody to mark it, and mark it a little bit long. A little bit long. I'd say an inch, 2, whatever, to start with, and just start cutting maybe a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch at a time from the back, so that you don't have to keep re-gluing. It's okay to cut the back of the shafts. I didn't have to cut this one, but normally I would, because it's a lot easier once you've already went to the trouble to glue this in and let your glue cool down and dry, even for your testing purposes, okay? So that gives you the finished product that you can then go fletch. Or if you have arrows already fletched, if you buy them with already factory fletchings on them, you're just going to have to get the old knife out and shave them off and get you a bare shaft, tune it, get it right for the bow that you are going to shoot them out of. Then you can know what broadheads to buy, what grain that you can get by with, and guarantee they're going to fly. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. As always, it's a blessing to be able to bring you this stuff. We love you so much, and thank you. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Be safe. Until next time, thank you for joining us on Instinctive Addiction. God bless you.